Call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order at 6:21. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Daugherty?
Here.
Mr. Burchett?
Here.
Mrs. Witt?
Here.
Ms. Marcus?
Here. We have the approval of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting for September 26th. If there are no adjustments, corrections, they will be approved as they are. Hearing none, they are approved. Go to topics of discussion. We'll go with Acting Finance Director,
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
City Manager,
I have nothing, Ms. Marcus, thank you.
Mayor,
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Law Director,
No report, ma'am, thank you.
Clerk of Council.
I have nothing. Thank you, Ms. Marcus.
Move into business. We only have one item tonight. That's the City of Marine Modernization Project bid award discussion.
All right, yep, it's working, perfect. He said to push the button, but it's already lit up. Thank you. Good evening. Again, I'm Jonathan Shaw from RDA Group Architects, for the project architect for the modernization project here at the municipal building. Jenny Duke is here with me as well, if I need to fill in any of the details, but I wanted to give you an update of where we've been since I was here a couple of months ago. So since that time, we wrapped up the bid documents for the project, worked with the city staff to finalize details and work through various aspects of the project to get those out for bid. We did issue them to bidders and had a public pre-bid meeting, several walkthroughs of the building with interested contractors, ended up receiving 6 bids for the project. So I think some of those may have already been shared with you, but just kind of give you a snapshot of where we are in the process. So we are at the point where it's the award phase of the project and deciding how we might move forward with the project. So just to kind of do a quick summary of the project itself, a lot of it started with mechanical systems, infrastructure of the building that's original or near original to the building. So focusing on mechanical systems, energy efficiency, accessibility, and safety. Those are our primary components of this project, and more or less that's what drove the scope as the overall project. This scope obviously includes other things such as finishes and some facade improvements and so on, but it was all driven by those primary aspects of the job. This is a rendering of the front, which you've seen before. Again, kind of the breakdown of the different areas. We've got the building identified in areas A, B, C, and D, A being the administrative, B being the central portion here with the council chambers, C being police, and D being the basement space. And as part of that, originally when we started talking about this project and potentially as even a multi-phase project, we weren't looking at the mechanical systems necessarily wholesale for the building. We did that, so that drove adding in some more scope into the police department, which wasn't really part of the original contemplation of the project per se, and as well as some of the work in the basement. So taking ceilings down, putting ceilings up, upgrading, repairing, and replacing finishes as a result to accomplish those primary goals. This is a slide with a lot of the finish selections. We worked with our interior designer as well as city staff to work through a palette of finishes, which would help modernize the building a little bit while also being true to what you've already been working with from the city's perspective for finishes for recent years and so on, and trying to just improve and embellish upon where those are today, and trying to give a fresh look to the public and taxpayers who might be using the facility. All right. Bobby, do you want to?
I'm just here for
Okay,
support.
all right. So we received 6 bids. We had 8 or so interested contractors. We ended up receiving 6 bids for the project. The bids, a I will say, we received all 6 bids within about 10% of each other, which, one, it shows confidence in the documents that were prepared by our team with clear scope, concise definition of what's being asked of them to do, as well as a good bidding environment for the contractors. So they're able to have confidence and sharpen up their pencils and not put a lot of, call it fat, in the bid, where they might be covering themselves from unknown scope or uncertainty in the bidding environment in terms of availability of materials or what cost increases or inflation might be doing to things. So the bid tabulation that you've got there in front of you, basically from left to right, are the 6 bids in columns, as well as kind of breakdown of their respective bid amounts. Our estimate for the project was $4.8 million. The low bid for the total base bid is 4.379, which is about 400 and some change under the estimate, with our high being about 4.88, I think it is.
508,000. Less, 508.
Well, yeah, from high to low, but from our estimate, we're about 400 and some change under our estimate. That estimate includes contingency allowance, which we should always provision for a renovation alteration project. So we've got 7 to 8% of the bid amount, which is monies that would be used or allocated for things in field conditions or things that we would uncover during the course of the project. So we have built-in contingencies to that 4.379, as well as allowance for door access control and building permits. We included some alternate deducts in case that there was bid challenges to stay within our identified estimate for the project. So those are kind of outlined in below there as things that we could extract from the project if so desired. It would be our preference, RDA's preference, to award the project in total. And the reason is, once you're in here and doing things, if you're just to save X amount of dollars, it'll cost more to do that X amount of scope by its own project in the future. So just kind of keep that in mind. Our preference would be to do the entire project if the funding is available and ready and the council is ready to make that decision. In essence, from our perspective, we have a good bidding environment. We've confirmed with the low bid contractors that materials are available or within reasonable amount of time, that we're not seeing the increase, that the bidding or cost environment is becoming more under control, which is why we saw the tightness of the bids that we did, and kind of shows that we had a favorable point in time to bid the project, as well as for a couple of the contractors in particular, they were really looking for a nice wintertime project. The duration of the project, we've got allocated at plus or minus 300 calendar days, so that's about 9 months. We've been working with the city staff a little bit, how about that might be phased so that we could take out portions of the building and put those back. We met with the Apparent Low contractor to talk a little bit about that earlier this week, and trying to formulate plans so that we can minimize the impact to your day-to-day operations. With that, I can take any questions. If Bobby's got anything he wants to add, he certainly can do that as well.
Bobby, can you talk a little bit about, again, that timing, 300-plus days? There's a little bit of relocation involved with that and some other things. Can you let council know maybe how some of that would work?
Yes.
I know there's still some questions.
Yeah.
Anything you could provide would be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I provided you with our minutes of our meeting that we had a post-bid meeting with the lowest bidder. And it mentions time schedules in that meeting that I forwarded to you, some that we could potentially get to. Working with, we're going to, need to maintain our current heating and facility operations until we can, they would like to start it right away, within 6 to 8 weeks of awarding the contract. They're ready to go. Because a lot of it would be demolition. We would need to move staff, as I was told by IT. They're ready. They have the infrastructure in place. So what we would need to do, and I work with Mayberry's moving, is we could start moving certain sections of people out as soon as the contract's awarded. One other piece of the aspect of this is the city of Moraine, Donna has done a great job on the flooring, all of the flooring. She can get the material under a contract at 1/3 of what it would cost a contractor. So we're saving quite a bit of money with just buying it and allowing the vendor or bidder to install it. And they're providing, all the labor for install. And so we would need to make that purchase pretty quick too. Like in finance department, the finance area, community development area, if we have the flooring, they can get moved back into the facility relatively quickly.
So some in the phasing, that's why I wanted council to be aware that not everybody would be out for a year, really, maybe
No.
nobody would, as it would be phased in. There are portions of the building that staff may only be gone 6 to 8 weeks, is that accurate?
It's going to be more than 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
We're talking maybe 3 months,
3 months?
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months.
Even for finance and community development? Like, I know those are the quicker
Well,
turnarounds, correct?
Well, in discussion with the GC, that could possibly happen sooner, but we don't want to really put a date on that because we'll be held by that. But the materials, those type of materials, like the studs and the walls, those type of materials are readily available. We can really go in, gut it, do it, move it, and boom, done. But they won't be able to access a certain areas of the building. And we have some specialty material that comes in, and I think it's out 6 to 8 weeks, which is better than what we all expected, because I ordered that same material for the police department, and it ended up taking us 6 months to get the material for that. So I was pretty impressed with it. So I don't know who their supplier is, who they're going through, but that was impressive. I thought so.
I think at the end of the day, materials are becoming more readily available. Rooftop units in 2020, 2021, 2022 could be anywhere from 6 months to a year or more out to be able to get those. Now we're talking, anywhere from 8 to 15, 16 weeks. So we've seen that those lead times shorten. And to Bobby's point about how that might implement schedule, obviously, nobody has been awarded this project yet. As such, nobody has a firm schedule exactly how to do it. But the intent of our meeting earlier this week with Apparent Low is to get an understanding of the strategy that they would use to help minimize and shorten those periods of time when the staff would be out of the building. There would need to be additional discussions and in coordination between
Right.
everybody within the city to understand when things are going to start and stop, depending on firm lead time. They can't get a firm lead time on, say, a piece of equipment until they actually place that order and puts them in the queue for that piece of equipment. So there's a little bit of fluidity, but it's a much, much improved environment than it was even with 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah, I would agree with the equipment. The materials that we're using for this project are, it's all commercial. It's all commercial. So the hurricanes, we discussed that in our meeting. We don't believe that's going to impact this particular job in a harsh manner. So it was really depends on getting the extra funding that's needed and awarding this contract and having that prepared for legislation. That would move it quick. And as far as moving the staff, like I said, we're going to get 2 40-foot storage containers. We can start getting things out. People get, we can literally start that, after tonight. If we move forward with legislation, we can go ahead and start moving some of that, getting some of that stuff prepared.
Well, I know council's gonna have a lot of questions, but I had a couple because of council talking to me. RDA, can you talk a little bit about where do you think we would have been a year or two ago in pricing versus now? Has there been fluctuation on a negative side or positive over those last 2 years or so?
Yeah.
Can you touch on that?
Yeah,
please?
so if you look at it over the past 2 years, especially, most things have stabilized. There was a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. So as a result, the bids would be very scattered and would be higher because the contractor's protecting themselves because they're giving a firm bid amount to the city to say, we're committing to do this project for X amount of dollars. And they would have to pad that because of the uncertainty of inflation, cost increases, material and equipment increases, and so on. That's much more stable now. So as a result, the pricing we've seen is much more competitive today than what we've seen since 2019 timeframe. Before, 2020 was not too bad early in the year before everything with lead times got into play. Because we got some really competitive numbers early in COVID before nobody could get the materials. But once all the material delay and all those issues came into play, that's what really created a challenge in the public bid world especially. So I would say today, 2024 now is much better than it was 2-3 years ago in terms of being able to get good competitive bids from contractors. And I see that in the 6 bids that we received. We had good competition. We had contractors that were really interested in working with the city and looking at this project. And I think the bids received reflect that.
So you're saying that 2 years ago, in 2022, when this was first thought of, that it would have been $2 million instead of an extra $1 million that we're now talking about? And last year, when we talked about this at budget,
Yeah.
that it was not going to be higher than what we bid on?
Okay.
So now you're
Yeah.
talking another
We,
over $1 million that you're asking us to go ahead and approve.
exactly. And here's the thing. Here's the thing
What
to
was
that.
done the first year?
Okay,
What
the
did you
numbers,
do the first year?
the number, if you give me just a second, I'd be happy to answer that. Those numbers was from 3 years ago. Like he was just mentioning back in 2020, that $2.6 million, those were the numbers back then. Then everything just blew up.
No, we started this in 2022. I went back and looked at all of our budget meetings,
Okay,
and you came to us in 2022, and we awarded it.
Yeah.
Nothing was done all of 2022. 2023 came along last October. It's now 2 years. Last October, and you asked us, I think we raised it a little bit, and now we're here another year, and now we're adding another $1 million onto that. That's a lot of money to ask us to keep going up.
okay.
And that's only if everything comes in at price. We've seen it on cars, we've seen it on everything, that there's going to be something that's going to come back, and we're going to have to add more money to it, unless you can guarantee
Well,
that
now
this is
we
the final amount, that nothing else is going to.
we have that guarantee right here in front of you. We have finally put the project as a full project out to bid. The bid was asked to be cut back, chopped up, and put out to bid. We've already brought it to council as a partial project and bidded. We got one bid. The bid was rejected by council, which I don't blame you a bit. It came in over $1 million when we was funded at $700,000. So whenever you underfund projects, it makes it very difficult. Yeah, sure, I understand where you're coming from, but it was underfunded from the beginning.
Why didn't you then raise it last year?
Last year and during the budget talks,
Yeah?
I did not have this number. And if you go back to the council meeting on April 25th of 2024, when we had this discussion, I let you know then, if we can get a full package, we will know the full number. And we just finally got it done.
And it took 2 years.
Yeah, and
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
RDA has not been under contract for this project for that amount of time. We
I know.
were awarded the project around the first of the year, this year, 2024. So we've been working over the course of 8 months to prepare the documents. And in that same time, we did add scope to the police side of the building that wasn't necessarily contemplated, I believe, in our original proposal, what we understood from the RFP, or what I believe what the city had appropriate. I can't speak to more than that, but that was, from our perspective, we've been working at this for 8 months.
No, and then moving everybody and just everything that's involved, and nothing was ever thought about at the beginning of this. Did you tell us at the beginning that people were gonna have to move, court has to move,
Yes,
courts?
yes, that's
I never-
been discussed.
No, I never
You and I
remember.
personally had that conversation several times.
No,
As far as court and as far as this council chambers. This council
nothing is
chambers,
being done.
in fact, I'm sorry, but this is what it is. If you want it, we can do it. Now we can do it.
Do
We
you
was
have an
unable,
approximate-
I'm sorry.
You have an approximate as to how much it would cost to move the departments?
Yeah, to move the departments for temporarily and to purchase the flooring, because we'll have to purchase the flooring, we're looking at about $140,000.
But that's not included in that.
That's an additional. And that's strictly just an estimate, because we've been pricing storage containers, we've been pricing mobile offices, mobile restroom facilities.
You have been able to secure cubicles and other things already, right?
Yes,
Probably at a
we
very
have
good
already
rate or
purchased
discount.
cubicles. When Supply had 8 cubicles, brand new, we bought them for $2,000. And we was pricing them, and it was well over $10,000. We got it for $2,000. So we have those in stock. And rental, I have worked with Court Furniture, and they set up temporary office spaces and things like that. And, so I've been doing that research too. It was quite pricey, actually, pricely, actually. I've always coordinated that with the city manager, but that's another option.
How much would it cost to just put in a new boiler?
There's more to a boiler, okay, and I think that's where really the breakdown is happening. The boiler is not just boilers. The boiler is 50-plus years old, but it goes through the whole entire building. And to do it, all these components are throughout the building, this section of the building. So you have to tear the building apart just to do it.
Hey, Bobby, I know we talked a little bit about this too. I just want to make sure it's accurate so council would know for them to continue to consider this. Bobby, and by the way, Bobby and the whole building maintenance team has done a really good job on this project. They put a lot of time and effort into it. I know, as well as RDA, it's taken a lot of design for them to get to where they are today, to get the bid package together. But the building maintenance capital budget shows $2.703 million currently available to this project. And then council will remember that there are ARPA dollars that were money given to us from the federal government that we are allowed to allocate or spend towards a project like this because it has a benefit to the citizens. That's $435,318. So that gives us a total currently for the project of $3,139,068. As you saw in your packet, the lowest bid right now is $4,379,728. So it looks like Bobby, if these numbers are accurate, it looks like the amount that is not currently available is $1,240,660.
Correct.
And then the mayor is sharing too, that's not part of this, that's the actual bid price, and then there's the $100,000 for possible temporary relocation of the process. So if there's a request associated with this, it's also that dollar amount, correct?
The 100, yeah, that's for the,
I mean, the 1.2,
yes.
or one.
Yeah, it's 1.2, I got 1.2, 1,213,000, you got 1,200,000. The
A bit of
ARPA
the
money.
difference is clarification that finance was able to provide to me on some.
Right.
On some numbers.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, they're roughly the same. So I wanted to clarify what would be needed today, or for council to consider at some point, is the project as a whole, and then I guess up for discussion would be, if council were to support this project, does this become an allocation, a supplemental request for 2024? Or, and actually, RDA, you may be able to answer this, is any of the contractors, are they able to divide this up in a way to where the additional dollars could be budgeted in 2025? And like, would they be able to break it up and identify that? Because I know that we would have to legally, it would have to be identified that way, because if we did it as shown currently, we would have to have proof of funds for the whole thing now. Therefore, it would take us up.
we would have to, legally, we would have to have the full amount. We'd have to do a supplemental appropriation along with the approval of the,
Not a 2025?
no, not a
capital request.
2025. It would be a 2024.
So there's only one alternative, that's to do
Yeah.
it? Okay.
And then we could, like conversations you and I had about the, my operating budget. I can move some money around in our operating budget as far as like storage containers, hiring moving company to move stuff out and fill up the storage containers. I do not have enough staff or anything. They're the professionals and they've worked for us before. They've done work in our police department, Mayberry's. So yes, a lot of that, but we'll have to purchase the flooring. And like I said, Donna's getting it for a third of what it would cost the contractors. So we took the flooring out of this. They're just installing it. So those numbers, the 140,000 was including the, if we went with court furniture to build temporary offices, because now I found out, I thought we was only going to have 8, but Aaron informed me that no, we have enough room for everybody, and we also have enough room to have council meetings over at the rec center like we used to when we took the mitigation, asbestos mitigation.
So I saw just for clarification, I think in those minutes I saw something about court possibly being handled at Kettering. Where I did bring that up to you as an option because I talked to their city manager. However, nothing's been defined on that. I mean, it would take a visit by me, the mayor, you, and Aaron and Susie to go over and understand if it could actually accommodate the need.
Yes.
And whether that would be, just letting the rest of the council know, whether that would be just mayor's court day, or would that be, what's the expectation from your perspective, or is this, Susie, a relocation for the entire time period there, or could that piece be accommodated at the rec center?
I believe it could be accommodated at the rec center. Aaron, if he's back there, he was talking about it last Friday in the staff meeting. About, I don't really know how the courts run, but, if they can be able to do video arraignments and things like that.
I have another question. Has Greater Dayton ever done any work for us?
Greater Dayton, the Greater Dayton built Project Cure in Moraine, and no, they have not done any work for us. Broomball Construction is the one that had done all of this council chambers back in 2003. I'm familiar with all of these companies except for AKA, and they're very high level. These are very high level companies and organizations. So, yeah, Greater Dayton Construction is a really good company. I have full faith in them. I mean, they're low bid too, so
Mayor Murphy, I would just add that personally, RDA, we have a 15-year-plus relationship of working on public bid projects with Greater Dayton Construction. I have complete confidence in their abilities to take on this project, as well as be a fair partner at the table with the city in terms of things, if they come up, any contingency items or field conditions, that they're a fair and reputable company. I have no concerns about a award to them.
So I have a couple questions, additional questions. Probably hard to say, but contingency allowance, is that almost always spent? Or is there possible savings there as well?
Well, there's possible savings, but typically you'll find in a renovation project, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10% of the project cost is for those unforeseen field conditions, things that we can't see behind the walls or whatever. That's typically what we see. So that 300,000 is in that range of about 7-8%. So we think that will cover, because we have been through. I don't want to knock and be confident and say there's no possible way, but we have been through this building a number of times with ourselves, with our engineers, with Bobby and his knowledge of the building, as well as his staff, that we know the building well. So the better we know the building, the better and more complete the documents are. So I have pretty good confidence that the money's there to cover those things with that allowance.
Do you feel that would limit the amount of change orders is what you're?
Yes.
Well, Mike, I'll add to that, because during our conference call, our conference Zoom we had earlier this week, it was a question that I asked. I asked them, how's your vendors, okay, with their electrical contractors, with their plumbing contractors, their HVAC contractors, have they seen anything we missed? And one of the things about this project and why you see these bid numbers so close is because all of us have identified certain change orders, and we added them into the project already, like sprinkler heads, sprinkler lines. There's some, when they start to work, those are going to break. We already know. We already identified them. They're already in our project plans. So this is not, we didn't go through this and throw it together. This is not a thrown together project. This is a thorough project, and I think it's very, very good for the city to move forward with the project. Good for the citizens and city employees.
Well, and Bobby, I want you to touch on something in a minute, but back to you real quick. You mentioned your relationship, 15 years of Greater Dayton.
Yeah.
Do you have similar with some of the other bidders that are on this list?
Yes, we've worked with Becker, Broomball, and AKA within the past few years, each of them. So again, I feel Greater Dayton is on the same playing field in terms of their caliber, their size of their company, their ability to take on the job and be fair as the others that we're seeing.
Has your experience been pretty much the same or good with all of them?
Yes,
You've had?
yes.
Bobby, you haven't touched on this yet. I think it would be good for council to know. Can you talk a little bit about, if the project's done, talk about the future savings on efficiency, the security measures for staff, the new accommodations, things like that. Can you touch on that side of the project? If it was complete, is there a payback period from an efficiency standpoint? Any of that? And if RDA can help you answer that, fine.
Yeah,
It hasn't been touched on yet.
It's one that the engineers and I've discussed. There's really no insulation, any R value within this whole entire area of the building. This is just a big hole. We're using
Right here, you're saying? not
this
the-
whole entire,
Council chambers section of the building.
all the way out the front of the building, and above here. So we identify that in this project. Just this area of the building uses more energy than all of the firehouses, the street department, and the service building and our storage buildings. So we're literally 5 buildings. It's using more energy than 5 of our other facilities. And the firehouses are 24-hour facilities. And I'm talking about, this sections of the buildings, the amount of energy we have to use. So we would get a really good return on our investment with that. The only thing that we're not going to get a return on the investment would be, some of the, just some of the visuals.
Cosmetic.
cosmetic things, those are things we need to do anyway. But there's definitely a return on this investment over 10 years easily. We have been far advanced and way above other municipalities in the area. And I can assure you that 31 plus years, me being here as a maintenance person, I can tell you that we've led all local municipalities. And what they're doing is they just build new buildings. We have a really nice building here, and we want to move. We want to keep it that way. We just want to make it nicer.
What's the lot, right? All this new infrastructure that would come in, what's the life of it? This investment,
I
what do
think
you
we're
think?
talking 40
Yeah, I mean,
plus 50
typically you
years.
have warranties for things, extended period, but I mean, we designed this for another, 30, 40-year extension of the life of this building with everything that we've done. So it's not just a Band-Aid approach. It's a long-term solutions-based approach for the items that we're doing with infrastructure. And then Bobby didn't touch on the safety, but I mean, that's a big piece of this project is the safety and security. So limiting, public access to various parts of the building, that's all was part of this project as well. Now, payback, it depends if we have, an unfortunate circumstance of security. But for the security of the employees, it's day one.
Yeah, and one other thing that I'd like to mention, this building, we do not have true handicap access into this facility. That's from the time you walk in from outside. Okay, we do not have handicap accessible restrooms. With this project, we get those. With this project, we have handicap entrances to the facility. We're removing those doors. We're handicap doors on the administration side of the building and the police department side of the building. So we meet the handicap requirements, which you're supposed to try to do anyway, anytime you do attack on a project like this. So we'll have that. There's limited, I mean, we've covered everything. So it's more than just boilers, is the point I'm getting at. That's a big part of it, but the building is 50-plus years old. We haven't done anything infrastructure-wise. We've just done cosmetic things within the facility. And this will take care of all of that.
You're talking about security efficiencies,
Security, efficiency, and handicap accessibilities.
then some aesthetic improvements along.
Yeah. The energy savings on this building, like I said, it uses more energy in just this area of the building, this area, more than 5 other buildings in the city of Moraine, or more.
Anybody have any questions?
But you kind of answered my question a minute ago. Because the 3 options, I was thinking, you just keep Band-Aiding it, Band-Aiding it, Band-Aiding it. It's already 4 years old or something like that.
Right.
Or you have this modernization project, and you said it would be good 30 to 40 years.
We're looking at 40 years or longer.
Or the third option, build a new one next door. Well, what's that going to cost? $8 million?
12 million.
No, more than
That's
that.
about 12
12
for,
plus.
we're looking at 12 plus million dollars to build a new facility.
And I want to state something on that. That has fly ash, so you can't build on it unless you build caissons in the ground. That's going to add to the square footage of the building. That's additional cost above what would be 12 million.
This is a solid building. The building is solid, and this particular job that this modernization project, getting 6 bidders to bid a project this complex and complicated it's very impressive. I was blown away. I was blown away when I seen all these numbers and how close they are. That says that we've done a really good job, architectural-wise, engineering-wise, and going through this building. This building it's a solid building. And the way it's built, it's an interior footing building. So we have 5 footers on this building.
Bobby,
So
can you clarify a little bit outside the bid again, that $100,000 number or something, are you indicating that within your current operating budget, you can handle all that? Or is there some
No.
money in the 25 request to handle that?
Yeah,
Or-
it would come out of.
Or is this a supplemental that would go to your operating at a future time?
No, I could start the project out of my operating as far as, the rental, the storage, the rentals and, the moving vendors. I could start that. And then next year, we just pick up, by not cutting any of my operating. The cost will be minimal. We're literally, like Jonathan and I have just said, we're looking to have most of these people back in this building within probably 6 months of, and then when we move into the boiler room area and then we start gutting all that out, that's where we have, there won't be nobody allowed in that area. So, and it's not a public area anyway.
So based on how it would play, how do you think the building would go? Say, tell us where it would start and where it would end.
Okay, in the meeting that we discussed, we want to hit a target first, which would be the administration's section of the building. They would like to go ahead and move into the council chambers and take this, because the whole ceiling's coming out in here. We're putting in thermal ventilation systems that will keep above the ceiling from greenhouse. And this whole area greenhouses during the day when the sun comes in, it's literally 135 degrees above just the ceiling tile. So we're going to have ventilation added to that, which is something we've been trying to do, get done for years. So it's going to be in there. There's going to be insulation added. And the glass in the front of the building, all of that's going to be all energy efficient glass and
lowered, correct?
and lower.
Not
It'll be
as much
less
of it.
glass,
Will it be-
less glass with thermal panels.
Will it be bulletproof?
That glass is not
Not.
at the front, but there is ballistic glazing in the areas of identified security points for public to staff side. There are ballistic glazing, ballistic windows, as well as ballistic protection in the wall systems against those primary points.
Yeah, and that's throughout the building. That's on the police department side already, and that'll be over here on the administration side. All of this material, Aura, that you see on this glass here, that's all ballistic. It's already been done.
That's awesome.
It's a ballistic film.
Okay.
So to kind of give, the initial discussion with the contractor, with Greater Dayton Construction earlier this week was to look at what we call Area A, which is the administrative side of the building, doing those interior alterations and trying to capture as much of that work early in the project as we can so that we can start to bring those people back into Area A. That would also allow the lead time for some of the mechanical equipment that may be 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it might be, out from the point of ordering it so that that equipment can start to come in, become installed and be ready. So they want to keep, say, the boiler and the system infrastructure of the building, parts of those things running until, let's say, early next spring, when there could be kind of a transition and there's not a period of time when the building is not sitting in an unconditioned state. Because obviously, we've got to be able to take care of that, and if to bring the people back, we can't bring the people back without having mechanical systems in place. So all those things kind of play in together to do this. And I think from what our conversation was, is I remember that this area might be part of the last area of the building that actually gets it finished and accomplished, because there's going to be a point in time when the front of the building is going to be torn apart and put back together. That'll all probably be happening at the same time. The council chambers and some of the basement work with mechanical systems and so on. We also realize that police department, we got to keep them up and running. There's things that we got to facilitate through this process as part of that.
Yeah, that's the complex. That's one of the portions of this project with minimal interference in the police department. And I believe that the police chief and we can work with. There's fewer people, to work with over there, and we're doing some work in dispatch area, and so that's going to be very tedious because we don't want to do anything to disrupt them with minimal disruption. they'll never be down. We're not, no one's going to be out of anything. Everything in the police department's redundant. We have 2 heating systems, 2 cooling systems, 2 electrical systems, and everything already over there, so we're good.
Other questions or comments? Personally, think we need to go ahead and do this and get.
Price is only going to go up.
Yes.
I think the project's a little more involved than we originally assumed, I guess. And there are a lot of good improvements that we need to make, that we need to just make in general too, on top of just the mechanical systems.
Right. Yes.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I want to make sure that, Martina, am I accurate on this? Would this be 2? They would have to do a motion for a supplemental, and they would have to do a motion to approve the bid.
Mike, are you satisfied that this is okay? As far as money-wise and everything?
I am from the standpoint, I know, so I think this project's taken maybe a little longer than it should have. However, I do remember the presentation that Bobby and Rocky provided where it didn't make sense to split up the project into phases. And that's what created a lot of the delay. And the one bid, in talking with Bobby, was well over the expectation. And so then that reauthorization to combine it took a lot more time, I think, from the design perspective for RDA to do. I can't really anticipate in the future whether the price would go up or down. I know this is more than what was budgeted. I do think at the end of the day, it creates additional security for staff. It creates efficiencies that we will see in savings, right? Every year in the budget, we budget dollars for our energy costs in all of our facilities. So in this one, everything that I'm hearing is that would go down. And then I know it would improve some functionality within the building as well. And then the last thing I'll say is that on the boiler piece itself, which really started the whole project, to be candid, it's my understanding there are times that Bobby has fixed that with a pocket knife. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the project has grown, but I do think that there are a lot of beneficial aspects. There are some unknowns that are concerning to me. Those unknowns are, some of them I just can't be determined yet, but we need some better communication amongst the departments that are all involved. There's a heavy piece of this, it's in IT, and I think that we don't know, there will be disruption. There will be disruption for staff, there will be disruption for council, there will be disruption for mayor's court, and for collecting fines and everything else. So at the end, I think we would have a better product and something that would go long-term. But I guess I'm forewarning you that it may not be the most friendly environment for the next 6 months to a year.
Right.
But we end up getting a really nice product when it's done.
I agree with that.
And what would be the new R value we would have?
Oh, we'll maintain it, a 30 R value.
Okay. And that's pretty consistent with what?
That's standard.
Lead certifications and things now too?
That's
or-
with our lead certifications, yes, that'll meet leads easily. We have, we have standards to go by that, we are standard requirements to go by when you're in a commercial facility, especially government facilities. This is taxpayer funded. So, it'd be nice to go ahead and get to that point. But we're finishing up the roofs. Take, for instance, all of the roofing that we're doing, we're adding insulation to the roofs. So we're adding thermal value to all of those roofing projects that we're already in the middle of, which we're almost done with.
Bobby, you know a lot about this building, so does this project, are there any other hiccups that come up when this project's done? Is there anything that isn't being addressed in this building that you feel is too old, too outdated, Does this pretty much cover it all? Are we not having to look at future facility improvements within this building if this project is done?
You know, there's, you know, maybe some door openings like in our police department, but, you know, those are just little things. And, I mean, you don't know, we don't know.
I mean, you wouldn't anticipate any. kind of
Anything large?
significant-
No.
It would be something out of your general
Right.
annual operating that typically covers it.
Yes, yeah, we've done a really good job. And I'm very pleased, you know, that I've been able to do this with council for the past 31+ years. We've done a lot of improvements to a lot of our facilities over the past 8-9 years. I mean, with the restrooms and things like that. So we are above other municipalities. I can assure you of that. We've been keeping up with the pace of time, but it's time for this.
Bobby, is it your recommendation that we go ahead and accept the Greater Dayton construction bid?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion then that we accept the Greater Dayton construction bid on this project.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Abstain.
Mayor Murphy?
No.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes,
Thank you.
Now there would need to be one for
supplemental.
in, Martina, should it be an exact amount or should it be somewhat rounded in a way, in a situation like this?
I assume we don't have an exact amount at this point. This is
I've
my
got,
guess.
and I don't, Laura, I don't know if you can help me or not, no, okay.
Will we have a more exact amount by the next meeting?
By next, yeah, I think we could, to fill in,
Then I
but right,
would, I'm sorry, I would probably make a motion to move the legislation forward to the next meeting once we know the amount. We can input the amount once we get it, but go ahead and move the legislation.
right now it's roughly 1.2, 1.5
Okay.
million.
Yeah, 1.25 is what I got.
I make a motion to move the legislation for the supplemental amount to the next council meeting.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
No.
Mrs. Witt?
Abstain.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for having us here this evening. I do appreciate that.
Thank you for all your design work on the project.
Have anyone else wanting to appear before council? No takers. We'll go to staff and council reports. Start with the city manager.
I have nothing additional, thank you, Ms. Marcus.
Mayor Murphy,
I have nothing additional, thank you.
law director,
No, ma'am, thank you.
acting finance director,
I have nothing additional.
clerk of council,
I have nothing, thank you.
fire department,
I have nothing, thank you.
police department,
Nothing, ma'am, thank you.
building maintenance,
Thank you very much.
street maintenance,
No report, thank you.
parks and rec,
I have nothing, thank you.
city planner,
I just want to say good job, RDA and Building Maintenance Department, on this presentation. Looks very nice and looking forward to it. Thank you.
city engineer,
No further report, thank you.
building and zoning.
No report, thank you.
Mr. Burchett,
No report. Thank you.
Mr. Doherty,
Nothing further, Ms. Marcus, thank you.
Miller,
Nothing else, thank you.
Mrs. Witt,
Yes. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, RDA. You did a great job. My abstaining had nothing to do with you guys. Thank you.
Al?
Nothing to add, thank you.
I have nothing either, so this meeting is adjourned at 7:15. Clock keeps me guessing.